Hello, Simon here with another Too Many Projects. We've got a couple of Sunday projects going on, which is why Clara is dremeling some bicycle wheels in the background today. I, however, am going to be working on this engine, which we got out of the CD200 in a previous episode. So the first thing to do is to get this engine bolted onto a workbench so we can work on it whilst standing. Let's get going. So the plan starts like this. I've got a piece of scrap batten and a piece of scrap exceedingly high quality 18mm marine ply, and I'm going to quickly screw them together. All right, so we've got a kind of T-shaped long platform there, which is going to fit into this workbench to hold it steady. And now, if she's available, Clara's going to help me lift an engine onto the workbench quickly.
I'd be delighted.
All right, thank you. Ta-da! And then I'm just going to put some long screws through these blocks and try and wedge it on the mounts here, just to hold it down tight if we're doing up and undoing bolts. Keep it somewhere safe. Shimmy it a bit more central. Right, let's give it a go. Interlude. While I was doing that, Clara's just been looking after this rally shopper bike. Well, that's not a shopper, is it?
No, what's its name officially? It's a Rally City bike.
City bike. Ladies' frame from the 80s, yeah. And she's just been cleaning up the mudguards and realised that the people who owned it previously never even took the factory plastic protecting their mudguard off, so it's going to be really nice.
Oh, it's going to be so nice. So yes, all the other metalwork is pitted and rusty because it's been in the garage for so many years. But actually now, they're just going to shine. It's going to be amazing.
So these are just some old bits of skirting offcut from in the house. I'm just putting a long screw in a washer to try and get the piece of wood to clamp the engine down. It might not work because the pieces of wood might snap. But I'm hoping it doesn't really need to be too mad tight. It is a bit wobbly. Well, I might lay a ratchet strap over the top of it to stop that lateral wobble as well. So, smoking out of one cylinder. The suspicion is that either the piston rings are letting oil into the cylinder or there's a problem with the valves seating properly. So the only thing to do is to get the head off and have a look at the pistons and the valves in that process. First thing to do is to get it to top dead centre by removing initially this cover. Some hateful person has tried to do that in the past with the wrong screwdriver. Oh, yeah, well, they didn't do them up very tight. Whoever took them off last time. Look at those, lovely clean points. Oh, it smells good. Smells like an engine. Then the head cover here, just two 10mm bolts. I'm hoping these are going to be quite easy. Oh my goodness, I think possibly even too easy. Except that one, which is rounded. Great. You haven't seen the vice grips anywhere, have you?
Not in the box.
The mole grips. Been watching too much YouTube. It's a really unique and specific bolt, that as well, by the looks of things. which will be why the last person didn't replace them. There we go. Well, nothing terrible seems to have happened. There's a good amount of oil there. So next we need to find top dead centre. Now I've brightened up the screen a bit so hopefully you can see the marks in there, and we need to line up the T mark with this mark on the crankcase. So as I rotate the engine, we've got all sorts of interesting marks. What does that say? I don't know. It's too small. That's a scratch. Oh look, it's just hidden there. You can probably see the F quite well, but just to the right of the F, hidden under this little piece of metal, is a T with a line on it. Before we go any further though, just want to sort of look at the valves coming up, because I don't feel like when it was at top dead centre the valves were released. That feels more like it. I mean, it's a little play actually. No, it's not as bad as I thought. Thought for a minute the valves might be stuck open, but no. Right, back to top dead centre. Right, next is to move these rocker cover bolts. Rocker holder bolts. And we need to do this in an order that stops the holders from warping as they come off, but I can't find the right diagram in the Haynes manual, so just going to do them in a... Oi, they're quite tight. Diagonal pattern. We should be okay. Trying to go a quarter of a turn each time. Doesn't sound right, that, does it? Right, then the cylinder head securing bolts next. There's actually a captive nut just right down the bottom of where that front bolt came out. But I don't think it's permanently captive. I think there's a strong possibility I might be able to lose that. So I should carefully get it out. And the rocker carriers should come off. They do not. They might need a bit of foot. Oh, that one's come. There we go. Going to apply some gentle pressure. Very wary of pushing too hard on these, since we've just spent ages undoing bolts in the right order to stop it from warping. There we go. This is a classic Haynes manual moment. The manual says, and then lift off the rocker carriers. And you think to yourself, oh brilliant, that won't take long. And it constitutes most of the job. There we go. Bolts on the sprocket on the cam there, and the next thing to do is to turn them by turning the engine, turn them somewhere useful. Ooh, it's quite tight. Right, and then could you turn that anti-clockwise, please.
How far?
Keep going until you can see another one of them.
Okay. I see what you're talking about.
I think, ooh,
Okay.
squirt, that's it.
Squirt. Squirt.
Good to see the oils working. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you very much.
Up like that.
The Hain manual is very specific here about the fact that you really, really shouldn't be dropping these into the head and down into the bottom of the engine. That's something they recommend against doing. When I was doing the valve clearances on the Tenere with Reen, I did drop. Oh, I remember the lock nut came off the valve pusher, and we spent a very long time hoping it hadn't fallen into the bottom of the engine, fishing with a phone camera and a magnet through the valve, through the little hole in the top cover. We did get it out with a magnet and managed to refit it. So the Haynes manual kindly explains that this job was found to be quite tricky. Now, I think the age of this engine means I'm going to be finding it quite easy, but if I slip the bushing off the left-hand side of the camshaft there, I think we should be able to lift it. Well, no, we really do need that chain off. Other side off. Now, it's to be noted that this chain will fairly easily drop down the tunnel once we get this camshaft out. So, we do need to retain it with something when we do that, so we don't spend hours trying to find the chain. Tricky. Sprocket out. Pencil, which is what was to hand, and fits perfectly, look at that. And that is the camshaft out as well. Let's try not to lose that bushing I took off earlier. Alright, and that's where we are for today because we've got to stop, but the next step will be removing the cylinder head. Alright, next we're getting the manifolds off. It's always good practice to make sure nothing falls through there into the engine. And then the cam tensioner needs removing. And this holds the chain tensioner in place, I believe. And there is an O-ring behind that bolt to stop the oil from getting out, which we mustn't lose. And the same with the tensioner there. And with those two out, the head apparently should be free to come off, but it's going to be really stuck. And you've got to worry when the Haynes manual tells you something is probably going to be quite well affixed, it's probably going to be really, really stuck. And it says the best thing to do is being cautious to only choose bits where the fins have support so we don't break them. We just need to tap it with a block of wood underneath. Oh, that actually moved. That was not that stuck at all. Oh look, someone's broken a fin off there already. They did not read the Haynes manual properly. Whoop. Still don't want to drop the cam chain in there. So I'm going to pop my pencil in the middle there. And we have the head off. So that's what we're looking at here. That's the top of the pistons. There is a lot of carbon deposits, but there doesn't look to be any damage in the pistons themselves. Now, because it's blowing smoke, in an ideal world, I'd like that it's just a piston ring gone, but there isn't damage to the cylinder. We'll just need to hone the inside of the barrel, and then we should be able to put new piston rings in, clean everything up beautifully, and away we go. But if there is damage, we might need to bore out the pistons and replace them, or in fact go on eBay and find a cheap engine that hasn't got that problem, which might be cheaper. And then this is the underside of the head with the 4 valves there, and that is really covered in stuff. That's very carbon deposity. It could be a problem with the valves, and they are bad, so I'm going to clean those up and then we'll see what we're working with. But anyway, I think the head is going to be the first thing to sort out and have a look at. Now, I think if I hold the cam chain up on the pencil, we're free to just turn the engine now. These pistons are exactly offset from each other, so they actually move at the same time, but when they go down, they're on a different stroke. One's on the exhaust stroke and one's on the combustion stroke. Let's have a look at the walls of the cylinders. Now, just to be clear, I'm no expert on this, and I'm only reading about it in the Haynes manual, but the walls of those cylinders are extremely smooth and nice. There's no visible gouges. They aren't crosshatched like they would have been originally. They have got some markings from the cylinders going up and down over time, but not that you'd be able to feel. Which is, from what I've learned, consistent with the cylinders needing a hone and some new rings, maybe. It is worse on one side, the carbon deposits and dirt. So perhaps that's the problem. Perhaps it's the head and the valves, not the piston rings as I thought. Alright, I just read the Haynes manual, and it's really not very many steps to just get the cylinders off as well, so I'm just going to do that now rather than wait. So we know we need to remove the chain tensioner blade here. Alright, so we just pull out an R-clip, and then it says to knock this off again. It shouldn't be as stuck as the head was, which wasn't stuck at all. There you go, there's a drop. Alright, pistons. They're very clean on the side they're supposed to be clean. Some markings, but nothing that would constitute scoring, I don't think. I'm supposed to measure it, but there seems to be very little sideways float on the conrods. They look fine, they look in good condition. Maybe some new piston rings and a hone. Alright, there we go, engine in pieces. So I am going to seek some more advice before I continue, because the pistons are in better condition than I was expecting from what I thought the problem was, and the head is probably in worse condition than I was expecting. So I'm going to ask some friends, see what they think about just doing an overhaul on the head, and that might fix the problem. So remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.